There are cities on this planet that logic gave up on a long time ago. Not ghost towns, not ruins overgrown with weeds and tourist signs. Actual functioning cities where millions of people commute, pay rent, raise children, and complain about traffic in places that should, by every reasonable measure, no longer exist. Cities built on top of active fault lines that have already killed tens of thousands. Cities drowning under rising water, with no plan and no exit. Cities running out of the one resource keeping them alive, and cities built so far into the sky that clouds form below the buildings. Most urban planners would condemn them. The people living there have simply decided not to leave. This is our countdown of the 10 cities that refuse to die. Before we get to cities still standing, we start with one that isn't, because Atlet Yam tells you something important about every city on this list. Around 9,000 years ago, a fully functioning settlement existed off the coast of what is now northern Israel. Stone houses, wells, ritual structures, a community of hundreds, living, working, and burying their dead in a specific place they had chosen. Then the sea rose, and the city went under. Today, Atlet Yam sits 10 meters below the surface of the Mediterranean, perfectly preserved in the sediment, the oldest submerged city ever discovered. Complete skeletons still inside the houses, a stone circle still standing in what used to be the town square. The people of Atlet Yam did not get out in time. Every city on the rest of this list is still above water, for now. Number 9, La Rinconada, Peru. At 5,100 meters above sea level in the Andes, there is a city of roughly 50,000 people, where the air contains so little oxygen that newcomers can lose consciousness just walking uphill. La Rinconada is the highest permanent human settlement on Earth. There are no paved roads, no running water, no sanitation system of any kind. Temperatures drop to minus 20 degrees Celsius at night. The glaciers the city is built on are actively melting, which means the ground itself is becoming unstable beneath the buildings. The economy runs entirely on illegal gold mining under a system called cachorreo, where workers receive no wages for 30 days and then take home whatever gold they can carry in their pockets on the 31st day. No contracts, no guarantees, no safety equipment underground. According to research published by the Peruvian Ministry of Environment in 2019, La Rinconada has some of the highest mercury contamination levels of any inhabited place on Earth, a direct result of the chemicals used in artisanal gold processing. The city is growing. People keep arriving, because at 5,100 meters in thin air on a melting glacier, there is gold in the ground. And that is enough. Number 8, Dhaka, Bangladesh. Dhaka is home to over 22 million people and sits on a floodplain less than 4 meters above sea level in a country where 17% of total land area is projected to be underwater by 2050. According to climate modeling from the World Bank's 2021 Groundswell report, Bangladesh could see over 13 million internal climate migrants by mid-century, many of them from cities like Dhaka. The city already floods annually. Infrastructure collapses during monsoon seasons with documented regularity. And yet Dhaka is one of the fastest-growing cities in Asia. 1,000 people arrive every single day. They arrive because as dangerous as Dhaka is, the alternatives are worse. When survival forces a choice between a city that floods and a village with nothing, people choose the flood. Every time. Number 7, Centralia, Pennsylvania, USA. In 1962, a fire started in a coal seam beneath a small mining town in Pennsylvania. No one has put it out since. The Centralia mine fire has been burning underground for over 60 years and is projected to continue burning for another 250. At its peak, the town had over 1,000 residents. The government bought out most of the properties, demolished most of the buildings, and effectively erased Centralia from state maps. A handful of residents refused to leave. As of the most recent census data, between 5 and 10 people still live in Centralia, above a fire that geologists cannot stop, in a town that officially no longer exists. The roads buckle, smoke vents from cracks in the ground. The temperature underground exceeds 900 degrees Celsius in certain areas, and a few people wake up there every morning because it is still home. Number 6. Norilsk, Russia. Norilsk is the northernmost city on Earth with a population over 100,000. Winter temperatures drop to -55 degrees Celsius. The city is completely inaccessible by road for most of the year, reachable only by plane or, during a narrow seasonal window, by river. According to Greenpeace Russia's environmental assessments, Norilsk produces approximately 1% of the entire world's sulfur dioxide emissions, enough that the surrounding region supports almost no vegetation. Snow falls in colors that snow is not supposed to be. Citizens do not open their windows in summer, not because of the cold, but because the air carries particulate levels that would not be legal in any Western city. Life expectancy in Norilsk is roughly a decade below the Russian national average, itself not a particularly generous benchmark. The city exists because the ground beneath it contains some of the largest nickel and palladium deposits in the world. The people who live there know exactly what it is costing them. Number 5. Jakarta, Indonesia. Jakarta is sinking. The capital city of a nation of 270 million people is descending into the ground at a rate of up to 25 centimeters per year in its fastest sinking districts, according to research from Bandung Institute of Technology, published in 2021. The cause is groundwater extraction. The city sits on swampy, soft ground, and as water is pulled from the aquifers below, the land above collapses inward. North Jakarta, home to millions, is already partially below sea level. During high tides and heavy rains, the sea simply walks in. The Indonesian government announced the construction of a new capital city, Nusantara, in Borneo specifically, to relieve Jakarta. And yet 10 million people wake up in Jakarta every morning. They will still be there long after any ribbon-cutting ceremony in the new capital. Cities do not empty easily. Number 4. Kowloon Walled City, Hong Kong. Historical. Kowloon Walled City no longer exists. It was demolished in 1993, but at its peak in the 1980s it contained over 33,000 people in a space of 2.6 hectares, making it by far the most densely populated place in recorded human history. Buildings had grown so close together that the upper floors had merged into a single structure with no gaps. Sunlight did not reach the lower levels at all. Residents who lived on the ground floors had never seen the sky from inside the city. Unlicensed dentists, unlicensed doctors, food stalls, factories, apartments, and gambling rooms all occupying the same buildings, sometimes the same floors, ungoverned by either British or Chinese authority for decades. 33,000 people had built an entire civilization in a space smaller than most city blocks. When the government finally demolished it, they found structural systems no engineer had designed and no blueprint had ever recorded. Number 3. Mexico City, Mexico. Mexico City was built on a lake. Specifically, the Aztec engineers of Tenochtitlan constructed one of the largest cities in the pre-Columbian world on an island in the middle of Lake Texcoco in the 14th century. The Spanish drained the lake. The modern city grew on top of the lake bed, and now 22 million people live on sediment so soft that buildings sink measurably every year, and during earthquakes, the ground liquefies. The 1985 earthquake, measuring 8.1, killed an estimated 10,000 people and collapsed thousands of buildings specifically because the ancient lakebed amplified seismic waves in ways solid ground would not have. Seismologists have documented that in certain areas of the city, earthquakes are amplified up to 500% compared to surrounding bedrock zones. Mexico City has had major earthquakes in 1985, 2017, and 2022. It will have more. We still have 2 more cities to go, and the top 2 are the ones that will actually make you question whether the human instinct to stay is bravery or something else entirely. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, and tell us in the comments which city on this list surprised you most. Number 2. Venice, Italy. Venice has been sinking for a century, and the sea has been rising to meet it. The city was built on wooden piles driven into a lagoon floor in the 5th century, and it worked for over 1,000 years. Then, industrial groundwater extraction, in the 20th century, dropped the city roughly 23 centimeters permanently. By 2019, severe flooding events had climbed to over 80 times in a single year, up from roughly 7 in 1900, according to the city's own tidal monitoring office. Italy spent 5.5 billion euros on a barrier system that took 16 years to build, was gutted by corruption scandals, and still cannot respond fast enough to sudden storms without damaging the lagoon ecosystem. The permanent population has collapsed from 170,000 in the 1950s to around 50,000 today. 30 million tourists arrive every year to photograph a city that is going underwater. The 50,000 people who remain are not unaware of this. They simply decided that being born somewhere is reason enough to stay, and no water level has yet proven them wrong. Number 1. Torre del Greco, Italy. 8 kilometers from the summit of Mount Vesuvius, inside the zone. Italian civil protection authorities have officially designated as unsurvivable in a major eruption. There is a city of 85,000 people. Torre del Greco sits on the same volcano that buried Pompeii and Herculaneum in 79 AD, killing an estimated 16,000 people in under 24 hours. Vesuvius has erupted over 30 times since then. The most recent major eruption was in 1944 and destroyed entire neighborhoods. The Italian government's evacuation plan for the surrounding red zone covers 700,000 people and assumes a minimum of 2 weeks of warning. Volcanologists at the Vesuvius Observatory have publicly questioned whether that timeline is realistic and whether 700,000 people can physically move through the existing road network in time regardless. Torre del Greco has been buried and rebuilt multiple times. The people living there now are descendants of the people who rebuilt it after the last eruption. They can see steam rising from the crater on cold mornings. They go to work anyway. The mountain has always been there. It was there before them and will likely be there after. In Torre del Greco, that is not a source of fear. It is just the view. That is 10 cities, 5 continents, thousands of years of people building exactly where they should not have, then refusing to leave when reality gave them every reason to. The lesson is not that humans are reckless. The lesson is that the attachment to place runs deeper than risk calculation, deeper than government evacuation plans, deeper than rising water and sinking ground and mountains that have already killed before. These cities exist because people decided that home is worth the danger, and once that decision is made, it tends to stick for generations. Which city was your number 1? Tell us in the comments.